you. Okay, the first part of your assignment is review of the distance formula. So this is exactly what we did yesterday. Distance formula, you subtract the x's and square it, plus subtract the y's, square it. So you do not have to show all of your work. I'll let you type it in the calculator like you did yesterday. So let's label our points x1, y1, x2, y2, and practice finding the distance. So you guys have a test next Wednesday over all this. Do you think you'll be okay with distance? We're getting more practice, so you will get the formula.
Okay.
You will get the formula on the test. You will get a calculator. Absolutely.
All right, got it.
Okay, so do you remember what to do first on your calculator? Radical. So second x squared, parentheses, and we have to subtract the x's. So what would I subtract?
7 minus
-1 minus
7.
7.
-1 minus 7. Close the parentheses and square it. And then what do I not want you to forget?
Plus.
Plus. Yeah, don't forget to square it either. And plus it. Okay, now I gotta subtract the y's. What am I subtracting now? Thank you. -6 minus -6. Close the parentheses and square it. Hit enter, and did you guys get 8?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I haven't finished yet.
Oh, we need to start the other one. Dang it.
It's a lot of room to put 8. But that's exactly what we did yesterday. This part should just be review. You will get some radical answers, and you might get something weird like 2 radical 89 or something. That's okay. I want you to write the radical answer. Don't change it to a decimal. You guys good with that?
Radical.
Okay, radical, dude. Okay, there is something new we are going to do. So this is the other half of that front page. Midpoint formula. So we need to talk about the midpoint. So what we've been doing is finding the distance between 2 points. So that's a length. The distance is a length. On this part, we're going to find the midpoint. And the midpoint is that middle point. And since it's a point, it's going to be an x comma y answer. It's not going to be just a single digit number. It's going to be an x comma y because it's a point. So you're going to have this point just like we did yesterday, x1, y1, x2, y2, and we're going to find the point that's in the middle. So all of these answers down here are going to be parentheses, and there's going to be a comma because you're going to get 2 answers. Now, have you guys ever found the average before? Have you ever like taken your grades, added them all up, and then divided by the number of grades?
Yeah.
That's all this is. That middle point is just the average. So if you take your x's and add them together, don't subtract them, you're going to add them, and then since there's 2 x's, you'll divide by 2. That'll give you the x coordinate of the middle. Then if you take your y's, add them together, and since there's 2 y's, you'll divide by 2. That'll give you the y coordinate of the middle. So it's just the average of the 2.
Oh.
So, for example, on this one, I have x1, y1, x2, y2. So to get my x coordinate, I have to take my x numbers, and I'm going to find the average. So I'm going to add them together and divide by 2. So what are my x numbers?
7 and -1.
So I'm going to add them together, and since there's 2 numbers, divide by 2. So what is 7 plus -1?
6 points. Oh.
6, and then what's 6 divided by 2?
3.
3.
That's not too bad.
Wait, what?
What?
I'm sorry.
So I took my x's. Do you see how my x numbers are 7 and -1? And I added them together. What's 7 plus -1? 6. And then we want the average, so we have to divide by 2 because there's 2 x's. So I got 3. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, y, same thing. We're going to add our y's together. We're going to get the average. So -6 plus -6, what is that? -12. And then I have to divide by 2 because there's 2 y numbers. What's -12 divided by 2? That's my answer. So we're finding the average of the x's, the average of the y's. Now these are the mistakes I do not want you to make. Say you're not very good at integers, and you're like, I'm doing this on the calculator. Do not type 7 plus -1 divided by 2 all in one line on your calculator.
I learned that.
7 plus -1 divided by 2. Your calculator will do order of operations, and it's going to divide before it adds, and you will get the wrong answer. But what you can do is do 7 plus -1, hit enter, then divide by 2 if you're not good at adding integers. Or you can even use that n over d button. 7 plus -1 over 2, hit enter, and it'll still give you the same answer. Now what you can't do is put a comma and do the y's at the same time. You have to do the x's and then you have to do the y's. So on midpoint, remember you're getting a point, so it's an x comma y answer. You'll get 2 answers. Add the x's, divide by 2. You're just finding the average of the x's, then finding the average of the y's. So let's do one more just to make sure you got midpoint. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So I know I'm going to have parentheses and a comma. First, I'll find the average of the x's. So what are my x numbers? 5 and 5. So I got to add my 5s together and then divide by 2. So 5 plus 5 is 10. What's 10 divided by 2? 5. And then I got to find the average of the y's. So 2 plus -4 divided by 2. What's 2 plus -4? -2. What's -2 divided by 2? -1. You might get a decimal, or your calculator might even say like 7 over 2. If it's an odd number, you can put 7 over 2, or you could put 3.5. So either way. But you're going to have 2 answers on midpoint. Are there questions over midpoint? Okay, one last thing we're going to do. Turn to the back of your worksheet.
What?
Oh, yeah, there's a back. Darn it. I don't know if you guys know, but there are 3 different types of triangles. There's a scalene triangle, which means all 3 sides are different lengths. There's an isosceles triangle, which means 2 sides are the same. And then there's equilateral, which means all 3 sides are the same. So all of these problems on the back are going to be worth 5 points each. You're going to have to graph the triangle. You're going to have to find all the lengths. And then you're going to have to decide whether it's scalene, isosceles, or equilateral. So let's do 13 together so you kind of know what to do. And I know it's kind of small the way I printed it. Okay, so number 13. First I'm going to graph point A. And that's at 2, 7. So that means I got to go to the right 2 and up 7. I'm going to put point A, and I'm going to go ahead and put 2, 7 there, because then when I find the distance, that way my point's right there, and I'll know what the x's are, what the y's are, and I can subtract them. Point B is at 4, 4, so I'm going to go to the right 4 and up 4. 4, 4. And then point C is at -1, -1. So point C, -1, -1. And I've got this triangle. By the looks of it, it looks scalene, doesn't it? But we don't know. We have to find all the distances. You're going to get so much practice on distance that you guys are going to rock this test coming up, right? I hope so. Okay, so I'm going to move this, and I know it moves it off the graph, but that's okay. So we have to find the distance of AB. So here's my AB points. I'm just going to label A, x1, y1, and B, x2, y2. And I'm going to find that distance. So distance, back to distance formula. Second x squared. We have to subtract the x's. So what are my x numbers? 2 and 4. So do you guys want to do 2 minus 4 or 4 minus 2? 2 minus 4, okay. If I go top to bottom, I have to do top to bottom again. So 2 minus 4, close the parentheses and square it. And then what do I not want you to forget? Plus. And since I went top minus bottom, I have to do top minus bottom again. So 7 minus 4. Close the parentheses and square it. And I got radical 13. Did you guys? So the distance from A to B is radical 13. You can just leave it in radical. Don't change it to a decimal. Radical, man.
I'm going to do that every time you say radical.
Now I have to find the distance between B and C. So since that's already labeled x2, y2, I'll label this x1, y1. This one's kind of easy because the numbers are the same. I'll do 4 minus -1 and 4 minus -1 again. So second x squared, 4 minus -1, close parentheses and square it, plus 4 minus -1, close parentheses and square it. And I got, did you guys get that?
Yes.
5 radical 2. So already those are different numbers. They have to be exactly the same to be isosceles or equilateral. Then I have to find the distance between A and C, so let me just change A to x2, y2. So now I'm going to do 2 minus negative 1 and 7 minus negative 1. So second x squared, 2 minus negative 1, close parentheses and square it, plus, what was the other number?
7 minus 9.
Thank you. 7 minus negative 1, close parentheses and square it. Radical 73. So all the numbers are different. So what kind of triangle is it? Scalene. So these are worth 5 points because you have the graph, the 3 distances, and then the answer. Now they have to be exactly the same. So do you guys know, like, what if you got radical 5 is one answer and 5 is another? Are those the same?
No.
Those are not. Okay. So make sure that they're exactly the same to be isosceles or equilateral. So are there any questions? That's it. Have fun.